Welcome back from the break. Now, we are still here. Topic: insight into inclusive education efforts in Uganda. We are recapping, looking at some of the efforts that have been way back and have yielded fruit, as well as the current efforts and what is the way forward. And to take us through, we've got Esther Chozida, who is the CEO for NUDIPU. You're welcome, Esther.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, our viewers.
Indeed, we know for sure that the plight of disabled persons in Uganda is still something to think about, and is really something that gets to lock them out, not only just in access to education, but also health, but also participation, as well as holistically, impacts upon their quality of life. What is NUDIPU as a national union doing right now? Can we take a step back and look at it from the very beginning and see how bad was it in the beginning and how bad is it right now? Is it still so bad?
What is the barometer?
The meter of badness. How bad
the
is
meter
it?
of badness.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that very good question. Disability is something that we keep saying that it is evolving. The earlier years, maybe I'll talk about when NUDIPU was starting in 1987. The situation of persons with disabilities was worse because there was the whole belief that a person with disability cannot do anything, cannot be useful in community, even doesn't have a right to talk, even to say anything. And many cultures by then were taking these children to, if you give birth to a child with disability, they will tell you to either go and throw them in the bush or in the lake, or somehow it was really an abomination. If you're a married woman, then this would be the end of the marriage. The husband would tell you, in our family, we don't give birth to children with disabilities. But the whole thing was really the level of knowledge, awareness about disability was not there at all. And the cultural perceptions had really overtaken the understanding of disability. And because of that, we still have some conservative cultures that don't believe that a person with disability can be anything. And the effect is that many did not get a chance to go to school. Many ended up getting disabilities like a result of polio, measles. And the issue was that the parent would not see the need to treat, for instance, a child with disability. And the level of discrimination grew higher, and that affected the level of participation, the confidence levels, the stigma, and everything that relates with it. But with the coming up of the different legal framework at the national level, at the global level, and coming up with several awareness campaigns about disability, we see a lot of progress in terms of changing perceptions and attitudes, allowing people with disabilities to speak for themselves, to be able to fend for their families, even men marrying women with disabilities, women with disabilities marrying men with disabilities. And somehow we see there is some level of inclusion. But we cannot say that all is well, because every day there are people becoming disabled as a result of different things. Others accidents, others illnesses, others untold circumstances that you find a child is born disabled and just can't tell why and what the issue is. So those are the ones that we are still struggling with to ensure that the ground is leveled for everyone, whether with or without disability. Yes.
Now, when it comes to, let's have your personal story. I think sometimes when you put a face to the story, it makes sense. You are visually impaired, yes, blind in both eyes. How did this happen? Was it from birth, or it is something that happened?
It is something that happened when I was in senior 1. But mine was a result of an illness, and I think the illness refused to go.
Well, what type of illness was that? Because I think people need to understand that this is real. It can happen.
Yeah,
it can happen.
Doreen, that is true. But sometimes we fear to share these stories because someone will get some simple illness and say the other woman was on TV and she said this is how she became blind.
Yes. No.
Yet her case could be different. Eh?
Yes.
But mine that time it happened like red eyes, and treatment was given.
Yeah.
A lot of treatment, but the eyes continued getting worse and worse and worse. And it reached a time that I couldn't see far. I couldn't read what was on the blackboard. I started now seeing blurry things, and I went back home and told them I don't understand what my sight is really up to. They tried, made consultations, went to the referral hospitals, but the situation was getting worse.
Yeah.
Until we were declared blind.
Totally blind.
No, it was progressive. It was progressive. It was not totally blind from the start.
Yes.
It would go like, as I said, you stop seeing things well. You see like some kind of mist, like something. Then you begin, it goes, you stop identifying people. It goes, you stop identifying objects until you get where you are.
Okay. But it is not.
So for me, when it happened, and the doctor said this cannot be corrected, we had to accept, and we went to the school for the blind.
Yes.
So that I could learn Braille and the other ways of managing disability.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing this. To me, it's, I think, not so much, we tend to, very many people tend to be on the outcasts. Yes? You never know someone's story. You never know whether this person was born visually impaired. And sometimes because there's a lot of, even the language, what you don't know how to term it. You don't want to be insensitive, appear insensitive. Or I can say something and not even know that it is going to be taken a different way. You know, so we as well have to be very sensitive right now in the Uganda of today, because it is not, you cannot really use inappropriate words as in the community were used before. Yes, such words as were said, Kasiru, really denote, were brought about by a failure to understand some of these issues, but also a failure to understand that someone who has an impairment, such as speech impairment or visual impairment, can go on to be quite useful to the community and do something. We would want to have a look at some of the different sensitization, the drives that have been there in the communities. What has been done to change the narrative, to change the language? Because I think it all starts with the way things are being perceived. True. If you had lost a lot of, all your hope, Esther, by the time your sight went, if you had said, I am nothing, let me just go, you know, that would have we would not have you here as the CEO of Nodipo right now, representing all the others and talking about the concerns. We would not if you had given up. If your parents had given up on you and said, you know what, it is the end, we would not have you here. So what is being done to tackle some of the mindsets towards disabled persons in Uganda?
Yeah, thank you. It normally begins with a family. Because even when, if I use my example, even if I would have wanted to go back to school, when my family are saying she's useless now, we can't gain anything from her, then I wouldn't have any choice but just to stay home. But the family has a big role they play in supporting the life of a person with disability, especially in rehabilitation. Rehabilitation, I mean like someone has become disabled at an older age, and they need to go back to that functional life. Not to think like, yeah, disability is the end of the world, now what can I do? Others feel like committing suicide and they think it's all gone. So the family has to stand with them. Like if it's a husband, the husband should really be there for the wife, and the wife should be really there for the husband. And even the siblings, the parents, everyone in the family really needs to be part of this. Because each time the person does not feel comfortable at home, then it means that even in the community, they are going to be despised, they are going to be underrated and discriminated. So what NODIP is doing is mostly to ensure that we work closely with the family members
Yes.
to support in the day-to-day living of this person. And even in the programs we do, we make sure that the caretakers are part of these programs. They know that this person must really be something in the community.
Yeah.
Then what we are also doing is to, as I said in the beginning, we are advocating with government to ensure that the laws are in place, the policies are in place. Okay, many times they are not implemented. But at least when someone knows, hey, if I do this, it's against the law, they will always remember not to treat people badly, because there's a law that can always get them accountable. So we are making sure that all the laws and policies, at least they mention people with disabilities and what needs to be done for them. Then the other thing we are doing is to make sure that the people with disabilities themselves are enabled, are empowered, they are confident to be able to defend their rights.
Yes.
Because many times if the person does not come out to speak for himself and someone else is the one speaking on their behalf, the people around may think, this one does not even know what they want. But if they're the ones coming out to say, you know, I want this, I'm able to do this, then they're able to understand them far much better. So we are empowering the people with disabilities to speak for themselves, and we are working closely with the politicians, like in the local governments, in the LC3 councils, and wherever there is space where they can speak. Then sensitizing the community generally, telling them about disability, causes of disability, and how to manage disability. Because in the disability sector, we normally mind so much about managing the disability, because the causes may not be an issue. Okay, you got disabled, then what? To us, that's the question we deal with. But saying, you know, it was an accident, then the accident happened, and it normally happens once. But then you are going to live with the effect forever.
Yes.
So we support people with disabilities to know how to manage their disabilities, how to associate with other people who are having the same kind of disability, and how to generally overcome the barriers in their communities, because the barriers are things that we face on a daily. Whereas your family is taking care of you very well, you find a society that does not believe that you can do anything, and they're just sympathizing and just
from the pity side of
yes,
it.
making the life so difficult for you, yet for you feel, no, I'm strong, I'm able. Then someone's like, but what can she do? Bambi, sorry, she's blind. So that alone can pull you down, and you find you cannot do so much.
Yes. Now, talking about it's very good that you brought it up, because honestly, Esther, if someone just sees you, passes by you, you are like any other person. Any other person, you are beautiful, you are very confident, have a very strong voice, and unless someone really gets to point it out, someone cannot tell. But now you get to see. I have interacted with a couple of other disabled persons, and they come at it from the pity point of view. They actually encourage pity right now in our, especially within our urban placement. However, we say that empowerment demands that you move away from that pity stage and say that I am empowered. What I have, you have. I can do what you, Doreen, can do.
Or even better.
Actually, even much better. Thank you for pointing it out. And I should not be limited in any way. But what about in that placement, in that sort of situation whereby the very person you're saying you should be empowered, I'm going to link you up to get to a women's empowerment group and do something, is still insisting on saying, no, I am this, I am that, from the pity stance?
Yeah, you know, many times the action and reactions depend on where someone has either grown up from. We have people with disabilities who have grown up from the charitable arrangement. Maybe they are in a particular location or rehabilitation center where they think they are supposed to be given.
Yes.
And because they have grown up from this angle, they are always on the other side of asking, begging, and presenting themselves like they are so vulnerable. Such people, even when you bring programs, they'll be slow in taking them on. So when I talked about the empowerment we are doing, partly what we are doing is to identify such people, bring them to a space where we talk as now people with disabilities, and we say that will not help you move anywhere, and it's not sustainable. It's just like a person with disability saying, let me go on the street and begin begging. You beg for how long? You still have to see yourself out of this. And those we have found on the streets, we tell them, yes, this could be your startup capital, but you should get out of here and then get something else that you can do for yourself. Because the era we are in is really about people working for themselves. No one is going to say, now you have this 100,000. You are going to get 100,000 today, but if you went back home and asked, but where did it go? Yeah. You can't even tell what you got out of it. So what we are doing is to identify them and empower them, enable them to realize themselves that actually can do something with the potentials that they were left with. If you're a person with visual impairment, we know the hands can work, we know the ears can hear, and the legs can walk. So how are you utilizing those potentials that were left with you to become something? Then if you have a physical disability, we still tell them you can see, you can hear. How are you using those abilities to become something? So that's the empowerment we are looking at. We are making many of them to run out of that charitable arrangement. But also we encourage the societies not to look at them as the charitable people. Someone has some 200 and they give them, then what can the 200 do for this person? The best is to see how this person can be enabled to get out of.
Teach them to fish.
Yes, teach them to fish. Tell them if you have land back in the village, please go and utilize that land. If you can start a small business here in town, please start something. And then we see you becoming a useful and reasonable person, much as you have a disability. So it is, it's really a perception that we have to change. Because with things to do with the charity and the attitudes, it really depends on the person you are speaking to. There are those who tell you, I cannot do anything, no matter what. Even if you gave them 10 billion, they will not do anything. But majority, I want to say that have listened, and many of them are doing so many things that are so amazing to us.
What programs are there right now that offer empowerment linkages to disabled persons? To disabled persons.
Okay. To NUDIPU, we are mostly into advocacy, and many of the programs we do are rotating around advocacy. And our interest is, for instance, we have a program on inclusive education. In this program, we go and train the teachers in different schools on how to handle learners with disabilities. Because, you know, this is a challenge. A child will come to this school and they'll tell them, we cannot handle this child, let them go to a special school. And yet government is saying we are promoting inclusive education, that the child should study from the nearest school in their communities. So we identify some of the schools and we train the teachers on how to handle those learners. Then we also provide some of the training materials like Braille and other assistive devices that they can use in their schools. Then we also enable the communities know that this school can accommodate the learners with disabilities, so they can bring them to that school. Then we have some programs on inclusive ICT. You know, the world is going digital. So we want to see how the people with disabilities can get to know about technology and how to use technology within their communities and even in the schools, those who are at school. So we are training the different people on the basic ICT skills. Then we have programs on disaster risk reduction. You have been hearing Goduda, Kasese, landslides murdering people. So when they are murdering, they don't leave out people with disabilities. So we speak to the humanitarian organizations on how to evacuate persons with disabilities, and we also enable the people with disabilities to know when danger is coming, how fast can they act, instead of them waiting for the landslide to come for them. When they hear the sign, they should be able to get the family members to support them out of the danger zones. Then we are working with different stakeholders as well to create community awareness. Like the Ministry of Gender is working with us, and they are supporting persons with disabilities with what we call the special grant for persons with disabilities. People with disabilities at community level can mobilize themselves in about 5 to 10 groups, to 10 people to form a group. and they are given a minimum of 2 million, and this 2 million is supposed to be like a startup capital for them to start something. That's why I'm saying that these ones who say they are charitable, they can't do anything, they are waiting for someone to give them, these opportunities are there. They just need to know where to go and how to get some of these resources.
Where can they access this?
Like the special grant for persons with disabilities is in every district, and they have to go to the district development, the district community development officer. Those are the people who are in charge.
Yes.
But in case some others are here in Kampala, they can still go to their divisions and they still get the community development officers to support them on how to access the funds. Then these days you are hearing about the parish development model. And this one we have advocated to make sure that this money that is going to the parishes, 10% should go to people with disabilities. And those who are very fast, they have started benefiting from these programs. So a lot is happening, and we think that if people with disabilities could tap into such opportunities, they would get somewhere, would be different.
What makes you qualify to be a disabled person?
To be a person with disability?
Yes. You're joking with Ugandans. we need to understand the scoop.
You are right, but we have the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2020. That act describes who a person with disability is. And they categorize them in about 8 categories. Maybe I could quickly run through them.
Yes, please.
We have people with physical disabilities. Now, physical disabilities are people that have any challenges with their bones, either the hands, the legs, the back. When we say challenges, they should be deformed, maybe if we can put it that way. Because someone will come and say, my back is paining, and now I'm disabled. No, that one is not.
There are very, very shrewd quick Ugandans out there waiting to tap into anything.
No, here we look at least some deformities of some sort in those areas. Then we have people who are blind and low vision. So blind are people who are not able to see anything at all. Then we have the low vision who are able to read some big letters. If you have seen, some people call them nose readers. Those are the low vision. They normally put on very thick glasses. Because there are others who are putting on normal glasses. Those, we don't count them. But there are those that put on the thick glasses. Then we have people who are deaf and hard of hearing. The deaf don't hear anything at all, and many of them speak through a sign language interpreter. But then the hard of hearing use a hearing aid. Sometimes they have one ear that is able to hear and the other does not. Then we have people who are deaf and blind at the same time. So we call them the deaf blind. They don't hear, they don't see. And many of them use a language we call tactile. Someone has to touch their body so that they can communicate using touch. But some of them who are partially blind, they can use sign language. And those who are totally deaf, those who are totally deaf can use sign language, and others who are partially blind can use braille and large print. Then we have people with epilepsy. This sometimes many doctors want to challenge it, that those are just sick people, but if you found someone who has been affected by epilepsy and they have gotten seizures, especially the children, many of them get intellectual disabilities. They are not able to do many things on their own. So that's also a category. Then we have people with mental and psychosocial disabilities. These days they are telling us every Ugandan has a mental disability.
It's on the increase.
This is why this one, I think here we shall have to send them to Butabika to verify.
Yes, we need to be very clear from the very beginning.
But normally when we come to Nudipo and disability, we look at the severe type, not someone who was chucked by the boyfriend yesterday.
With a broken heart
and saying, I'm so depressed, now I'm having a mental disability. No, so those ones we may have to send them for verification, but majority we look at those who have severe mental and psychosocial disabilities. Then we have people who are living with albinism. These are persons that have a different color of the skin, and they are very common in our communities. So they are part of the disability community now. Then we have persons who are affected by dwarfism. Others used to call them the little people or people with short stature.
Yeah.
And these ones, majority have accessibility issues, and they are part of the disability fraternity. So those are the many categories, but within those you find people with cerebral palsy, you find, there's one I had left, with people with intellectual disabilities, like those that have autism, Down syndrome, and many other issues that affect the intellect of a person. Yes.
But there's so much awareness that needs to be done. And there's, like I mentioned earlier, when it even comes to some of these intellectual, challenges that are coming up, autism, how many teachers really right now in Uganda can be able to say that this is an autistic child? Yes, how many can be able to pinpoint, and how many can be able to say, you know what, we also know that the majority of very brilliant persons have actually have had cases of autism coming in. So it is not necessarily just because a child is very hyper and cannot settle that immediately that kid has to be beaten into compliance. How many teachers out there, how many parents are even aware that they are raising autistic children? So a lot of sensitization should be done, but not only just stopping at sensitization. To me, what matters as most is the linkage to ensure that at whatever development stage, whether it is a child who has been born today and earmarked as visually impaired or has mobility challenges, this child should not be excluded from tapping into education, from tapping into health, from tapping into future participation. The linkages must be very streamlined, must be very easy. There must be fluidity, so that if this child is growing up, they get the quality education. As they grow up, get into secondary, get into university, and are able to actually graduate and get that job. So it has to be, there must be that fluidity to ensure that from whatever development stage, it is fluid enough for the person to tap until the very last end person. What is the way forward to ensure this fluidity?
The way forward is that
just give us the cores.
I would give you the cores because in government we see the engagements that we are having with them. At least now you cannot say I gave birth to a child and I just don't know where to go, I don't know how to start. Because at least now the schools are being enabled to identify the learners with disabilities. There's a tool that government has come up with. The challenge is that because we have very few special needs teachers in schools, many of the head teachers tend to leave the responsibility of identification to the special needs teachers who are not there in school. So that means that many will go unidentified.
Yes.
So what does this mean? That the Ministry of Education needs to strengthen their monitoring and inspection department, because it would be the ones to check, do we have learners with disabilities in this school? What categories are they? Because at least now we see UNEB has that identification process that if a child has been identified to have this disability, they support them during examinations to provide the reasonable accommodation or the adjustment that is required for this child to go to school or to do their exams with comfort. So that means that the stakeholders, for instance, in the education sector, all of them need to play a role. If you're the parent, you're identifying that this child is not very proper in the way they act even at home, then declare it to the school so that the school can be able to. But many parents fear, like, if I declare my child will be discriminated, and they will even chase the child from school, then the child goes to school and does not get the quality education they are supposed to get. So that is, my recommendation would be that all stakeholders have a role to play in ensuring that the best is given to a child with disability. Then at university level, we have the affirmative action for students with disabilities, those that have excelled. Government is providing some support for these learners to study free of charge at university. The challenge we have is that now, because of the awareness, many parents have taken children to school with disabilities.
That's true.
But government is only providing 64 slots in all the universities. So 64 slots out of 500 people who are applying for this affirmative action is on the lower side. And because of that, we are seeing many of them still stopping at the level of senior 6 because the parents cannot afford the university level education.
What slots would you recommend?
For us, we have been advocating for a minimum of 300 at least, because we would know that if we have about 10 public universities where the students are being posted, then at least each university should have about 10 minimum. But if you are giving only 64, that means that universities are getting 5, 2, 4, and yet it's not that the students are not there. It's just that the slots are too few and government cannot take many of them. Okay. So we want this at least to be increased so that we see many learners with disabilities getting this opportunity. Then within the communities, the people without disabilities should treat people with disabilities with equity and fairness, because there's the whole feel like, can this one be part of our group? That one is going to disturb us. But give them chance. Let them come and be part of your group. See what they're able to do. You'll be surprised that you not even want these people to leave their groups. Yes. Because we have tried it in our livelihood programs, where we mobilize people with disabilities to form groups, and they do activities like savings, like vocational skilling, like among others. But you get so surprised with what they are doing. So let the communities allow them to be part of the society, and that's how we are going to fight the discrimination. Yes. Then the biggest challenge is managing disability. The costs of managing disability are very high. In terms of access to health services, we have our colleagues who cannot be there without having these services. For instance, people with mental and psychosocial disability, they have to take their medicines every day if they are going to remain stable. Then we have people with spine injuries. They have to get the catheters and other things that they use, but they are very expensive. Yes. And they have very few specialists that can manage some of these things, these complications. And because of that, many of them are losing life, which we say is very bad, because we want to see even old persons with disabilities growing up to the older age.
Maximum.
Yes. Yes. So there is more that needs to be done there in the area of getting the specialists to manage the different types of disabilities that we have. Yes. Persons with albinisms are getting skin cancer because our Uganda is full
has no sunscreen.
Has no sunscreens, and the sun is burning them badly. So many of them end up getting skin cancer and they die, which we think that is also preventable. And it's just a matter of prioritizing some of these things by government.
Let's have further insight. But right now we are still getting insight from Esther Chozida, who is the CEO for NODIPO. We are talking about insight into inclusivity or inclusive education efforts in Uganda. Really, we are recapping having an umbrella holistic view into the plight of disabled persons in Uganda. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this.
Smart 24, driving business.
Uganda fire! Endiba fire! Ababona fire!
Uganda! Thank you for showing your fire! Has Nabole Stadium opened its doors once again?
Fire!
While you were warm over there, you were the 12th player when Uganda Cranes needed you the most.
Fire!
Through our famous wins against Tubangunda and our unlucky losses, you stood firm, supporting even louder.
Fire! Fire!
Now, as Uganda Cranes take on South Africa and Congo this September, South Sudan in October, and play our second legs against South Africa and Congo in November, bring even more fire! Because with your support, Uganda Cranes is unstoppable! Uganda fire! Proudly brought to you by MTN, the #1 supporter of Uganda Cranes. Together, we are unstoppable.
3 inspired souls brought together by love.
are set on a life-changing journey.
This is your life, Mackenzie. This is no longer a dream.
It's just something about Mackenzie.
I'll never marry you.
Your position does not allow you to break work relationship rules.
Where choices change everything. Crossroads, weekdays at 8 p.m. on Power Magic Prime. DSTV channel 148, GoTV channel 303.
I am Muriel Jamila Hope, a student of Ebenezer Baptist Secondary School, a senior 4 candidate in Obongi District, Itula Sub-County, Dongo Village. And I am in the bakery class, currently studying, pursuing the course of bakery in Lira City. But why have I come here is to add more value, to add more knowledge on the skills that I have. Because when I came here, the skills that I have got is on the best ingredients that I can use to actually make good product. But our great congratulations to the government of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He's really someone who is a mentor to everybody. He's really someone who is nationalistic, who is patriotic. We appreciate his duty towards our country, towards our women, so as we develop our economy. My congratulations to Grow Project and New Bees Foundation. We appreciate their efforts. They shouldn't regret their funding, their investment in women in such a vocational training, because it's for the betterment of our economy and to have a great future for the future generation.
Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
Everyone has a favorite housemate, and the power to keep your favorite in Big Brother's house is by voting. They need your vote each week, and here's how. You can vote on the website or mobile site. You can also vote using the My DSTV app. The higher your DSTV package, the more votes and power you get to keep your faves in the game. Voting opens every Monday and closes every Thursday. Vote now to save your faves from eviction and keep them in Biggie's house. Big Brother Niger, no lose guard. Rated 18. Brought to you by gold sponsor Guinness. Black shines brightest. Yeah.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from the break. We are still here with the CEO of Nodipo, having some interesting conversation into a situational analysis, really, of the disabled persons in Uganda. We get to see quite a number of issues happening, not just intra, but as well as external issues happening. And of course, there is the usual outcry coming in from within the communities, but also from outside. Now, what about the linkages? What can be done, especially to have more and more linkages to marketplaces? Let's talk about the linkages to the marketplaces. We have not only just challenges with other groupings, yes, for the ability to have the skills, for the abilities to tap into PDM, and then later on they will tell you, we are stuck with the chicken. Yes, they have the ability to get this, and then later on they tell you, we are stuck with the chicken. They are offering us a miserable 8,000 per chicken, and yet basically everything that I put in amounts to around 12,000 shillings. Now, when it comes to persons, disabled persons, we know for sure the efforts must be a little bit more than any other groupings of persons. What can be done for that particular man or woman who is able to access the skilling, is able to access that special grant that comes out, but still has challenges getting maybe his honey out into the market, getting her bags that she has made with a group of women out into the market? What is Nodipo doing right now to ensure market linkages?
Thank you. What we are doing as Nodipo is to create networks with organizations that we know can support our people with disabilities to have their products out. And for instance, we are doing it at different levels. We first of all network with the financial institutions to boost the business of these people. You may find that someone is making bags, but they are not maybe the high-level quality bags that can be put on the market for competition. So we work with microfinance institutions to give them some loans and money at affordable prices so they can boost their businesses. But then what we are also doing is to link with other institutions that we know are buying some of these products. For instance, if I could use the example of many of the communities are into honey. And what we do, we look out for some institutions within the market that are buying honey and selling to other places. So they come and buy this honey from our people with disabilities, and then they're able to market it out there. But where we are not able to reach, because much as would love to be in all districts, we are in few selected districts. Uganda is growing big every day. You find every financial year they are declaring new districts, and you can't be in all the districts. But what we are doing is to encourage the farmers themselves to build linkages within their markets, within their communities that can enable them market their products without any bigger challenges. Because sometimes if you say bring them to Kampala, the cost could be higher than when you identified the producers of honey within a rural district who are supplying on a larger scale and can sell, can buy from you, and then they go and sell. So the most important is building the linkages with those producers of such products. But we are also encouraging the farmers to make quality things. Because sometimes someone is complaining, you know, my things are not being taken, but
when you get to look at them,
you're like, but sincere, who can buy this one? So making your work smarter and neat so that someone does not even have to attach the disability to the product they are buying. But each time they come and find the honey is not packed well, the things are dirty, then they're like, but this one's after a person with disability. So that's where the challenge comes, the despising and the discrimination comes in. So the kind of awareness we are doing to the farmers is really to interest them in producing quality products that can be competed for on the general market.
Yes. A lot still needs to be done. What is that core thing right now, even as we almost wrap up, that one core thing that you would want the public out there to know about how they can be able to really work optimally with disabled persons wherever they are? Not only just business, really, because Smart 24 TV is keen on driving business. And this is why I was very keen as well on the linkages to the market. What is that core thing? Where can they find these products if they want to support? What can they do to be able to help the person out there? Because what they're interested in, if there is honey, is it good quality honey? Is it filtered? Is it unfiltered? That is what matters to the consumer.
Yes.
So where can they find it so that they can be able to support Nodipo?
Maybe what I can say, those are two questions you have asked.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the first one about the business. About the business is that for now, we don't have like a collective center where they can say, come and find the honey here or come and find this product here. But if they got in touch with Nodipo, at least we know where most of these people are. And we can always provide the connections and the contacts of such people, where they are and the kind of products they are making. Maybe Nodipo could be the connecting center. Then about what I would want the business sector to know about disability is that People with disabilities are doing so many things. Leave alone these few, one or two you find on the streets who are begging. No, those do not represent us. The people with disabilities are out there and they are engaged in several things. Others are in poultry, others are in agriculture. Many of them are doing these other easier things like tailoring, carpentry, and yeah, their work is really amazing, especially in the communities. And I would really want to ask, if you want to give an opportunity, give it to a person with disability in terms of employment, in terms of making them to be your business allies. There's the misperception like these people are always crying, complaining, they are hard to deal with, they are very slippery and they can't appreciate. That is not true. But I always say that we are also human beings, like any other person. Even those without disabilities, you find those that are picky, those who are always complaining, those who are never appreciative, but they don't have any disability. That is their nature. So even the people with disabilities, we have those that are good and we have those that will complain. But that should not categorize that group to be like so. But if you found a very good person with disability, they are always committed to their work, they are very productive, and many of them, once they decide to do something, they do it with all their heart. So give them a chance to be part of that enterprise you are making. It will be, you'll be so impressed,
worthwhile.
And you even come to ask for more. Do you have more persons with disabilities that I can work with?
Yes.
Many that have tested them, they come and testify to us that they are very good people. But as we said, you can't fail to get those that are having a few things here and there. So we just want to encourage you to enable persons with disabilities to remain enterprising, because they are. And if they are given chance, they can really make the best out of their potentials.
Last but not least, let's talk about the improvement in leadership, in participation, in representation. Up at the top, you've got quite a number of MPs that are there representing, and that is a milestone as well when it comes to this docket, the leadership and representation. Has it trickled down?
It has.
Has it really? No, let's talk about it from the fairer point of view. Has it really trickled down?
It has, because we have persons with disabilities represented at LC1, at the parish level, in the LC3 councils, in the municipalities. Once they are represented, I don't think that the same MPs are the ones coming down to represent in these lower levels. The people with disabilities are there. At least at LC5, we have a male and female. At LC4, we have a male and female. LC3, the same thing, male and female. Then at parish level, that's where we have one person, and village level, we have one person. For me, the question would be, are they doing the work? Those who are representing us there? Are they actually representing us? Because the challenge we have is that many of them are there, but they represent themselves. When there are things that are coming for people with disabilities, they'll be the first to register. And when you go to ask, did you give some seedlings to people with disabilities? They will say, yes, we gave them to the councillor. When you ask the councillor, he says, yeah, we took them, but I started with my home.
Is the representative.
So, exactly. So are they stretching, like if there are opportunities coming under PDM, are they mobilizing their colleagues to come and benefit from this PDM? So for me, the question is around there. And where
is it effective?
It is not. It is not effective. Because if they were, then even the people we are saying that they're on the streets, or they are not doing any businesses, or they are struggling with their markets, these councillors here would be able to bring this to the councils, and they debate and come up with resolutions that would be aimed to improve the situation of people with disabilities at that level. But many times you find the concerns that you found last year are the concerns you find the other year and the other year. Yet you have representation of persons with disabilities in the councils. So that means that there's something that is not being done well, and that's the reason that the situation of people with disabilities is not improving. But if it were, then it would be very far.
Do you have accountability, just like you have the accountability, sittings, the meetings? Does that happen? Does that happen as well, to be able to bring these leaders to book?
It's supposed to happen, but we're supposed to finance it.
And this is where advocacy comes from. This is where the advocacy comes into play.
Yes, because if it was happening, then we would know that at some point we are supposed to bring these councillors and ask them, what did you do for us? The way we ask the MPs when their five-year term is ending, ask them, what did you do for us?
Yeah.
And when they are able to say, yes, this is what we did, they are re-elected. But sometimes
if there is nothing to show, a vote of confidence can be cast.
But then at the lower levels, sometimes the voters there may not even have the ability to challenge their leaders. Like, what have you done for us for the 5 years you have been in council? So because of that, the situation remains the same, and the person is re-elected and re-elected and re-elected.
Yes. A lot still needs to be done.
Yes, there's a lot that needs to be done.
But the great thing about it is we have 2 minutes for you to wrap up. We just have 2 minutes for you to wrap up, and we get to the closing of this, but we really see that quite a number of things need to be done despite the milestones that have been reached. I would like you to really look straight into the camera to that person who is watching and close it off in 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Smart TV, for inviting me to be part of this discourse. Many times advocacy and disability awareness are things that are very complicated. Others think there's nothing changing, others think a lot has changed. But to us who are within the sector, there's a lot that we need to do in terms of ensuring that the policies that government has put in place for us are actually enforced. Government has put a number of laws, a number of programs, but the implementers at the community level are not enforcing these. And this is where the challenge is. The barriers still exist. When government says we should have accessibility on all buildings, the constructors ignore that, and we find a lot of stairs on buildings. So who is supposed to enforce these provisions that are in the good laws that we are proud about? It is you and me to make sure that the situation of persons with disabilities gets better, and the programs achieve what they're supposed to achieve in changing the lives of persons with disabilities. A parent who is facing a challenge of a child with disability, you are not the only one. Many people have gone through this, but the most important is to find out, where do I get the services from, so that my child can have equal opportunities like others without disabilities. Yeah, so we are at Nudipu. In case you need any further information on some of these topics we have been discussing, feel free to reach out to us. And I want to thank you once again.
And that has been it. That has been Business Insight. Thank you so much, Esther, for joining us. We've had Esther Chozila, the CEO for Nudipu, coming in and joining us, the National Union at national level, getting to give us some insight on our topic today, insight into the inclusivity, especially looking at inclusivity, not only just education, but as a rounder for all. And this has been Doreen Kemcha, Smart 24 TV. We have been taking you right through from 9 o'clock. Please join us again tomorrow as we talk about some of the impediments, some of the challenges. Right on until Tuesday, we will be exhausting this topic to have a look at some of the challenges and what can be done. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.